go back in history, you'll find that a great percentage of all the people that came to this country were farmers first. My story that I remember was my dad said that he and his brother started planting corn when they were 9 and 10 years old. They each had a 2-row planter pulled by a team of horses. First most important thing was planting, and that's what we end up doing here, is building planters.
Back in 1965, a 21-year-old farm boy from Victor, Iowa, with an ability to fix things, opened his own welding shop with a small bank loan and $25 in his pocket. At Kinze, everything starts with listening. Listening to farmers at the forefront of innovation. Farmers who want to take advantage of proven technologies that maximize productivity. Listening, then designing, building, testing, refining, and using it on our own farms. Then we bring it to the rest of the world.
Well, I had one out on the farm where I built go-karts and motorbikes and motor scooters when I was in high school, and then I graduated into bigger welding. I did some welding for the neighboring farmers and some for our own use around the farm. And then I bought a building in Ladora. It was, I think it was 30-some feet deep and 40-some feet wide. So it was like, what would it be, around 1,200 square feet, and remodeled it so that I could get in there to do welding and repair. And I started doing welding, repair, transmissions, axles, engines, all those kinds of things that I had learned to do either on the farm or working for an implement dealer. And then just things kept going from there. The first product was the anhydrous applicator, built for my own use, and later on we got to building them for resale.
As the history is told, you know, the welding shop did one-off projects, and of course there was the anhydrous toolbar, and then there was the first wagon, and then grain cart, and you know, and again, those ideas all came from farmers that had challenges in the field, and it was either a passing comment to my dad or a, I'd like you to make this for me.
We've always prided ourselves as being an innovator. In fact, I have a part of every grain cart that's ever been built, because a local farmer asked me to build the first one, and he wanted it to have larger tires than a normal wagon would have, and he wanted it to have a larger high-speed auger, and so we developed a cart that had big tires and would unload itself in about 3 minutes. And as the combines have gotten faster and more bushels, we've made the carts bigger and bigger so that they can haul more and more, but the auger sizes, we've continued to expand on those so that we can unload, still get back to the combine in 3 or 4 minutes if we need to.
We saw the industry copy what we had. You know, grain carts as they look today were really a copy of that first grain cart idea that we had, and every grain cart you see is really patterned after what Kinze created, what my dad created as that initial idea.
We built one for a local farmer, held 435 bushel. It's over here in our museum now. And from that, we built a dozen the next year, and then we built 25, and the next year 50, and it just went from there.
It was all about solving a problem and making the farmer more efficient in the field. You know, the grain cart with the large flotation tires was about being able to get the combine unloaded more quickly and to the truck, and not have the grain cart get stuck in the field when it was wet in the fall. And so you know, the product line just started progressing from one-off to, once my dad got to the idea of folding a planter for transport, again for the efficiency of getting it down the road and not having to stop after planting a field and get it loaded up on a trailer and down the field and then, reverse the process in the next field. It was really about that efficiency of being done with the field, being able to fold it, go on the road, go to the next field, unfold and plant again. And so when, that was the first of its kind, and we often talk about Kinze first over the years as far as innovation goes.
That was a local farmer who I had applied anhydrous for, watched him farm. He was farming quite a few acres, and he had a circle hitch on a John Deere tractor with an 8-row planter, and he had to take it apart basically to move it even across the field, or to move it through the gate or across a bridge. And it was a real pain in the rear to do that, and he commented about needing a better way. And I had a farmer from down in south central Iowa, I don't remember for sure where he was from, but he came in one day and just said somebody ought to be able to fold those wings horizontally rather than folding them up in the air or loading them on a trailer or loading the planter on the Donahue trailer or putting an endwise transport on it. It all took too much time. And so I started making a prototype that folded to the rear. That was the main innovation, was to fold it. I was using other known components to get started, and we used all different kinds of row units. We had IH, we had Allis-Chalmers, we had Oliver, we had John Deere, but the John Deere unit was developed by 3 or 4 farmers. John Deere capitalized on what they had invented and built what they called the Max-Emerge row unit, and we started using those on our planter bars. They were happy that I was painting the bar to match their units. They were glad to sell me row units until they realized that we had more going than they'd intended, and they were concerned that I would get too big, so they made the row units very difficult to obtain. So we realized that they were hiding behind a patent, abusing the patent, trying to monopolize it further than intended, trying to make their non-folding toolbar sell when we had thought that we got it into the court system that we could prove at least 3 or 4 of their patents were invalid. And I can remember my attorney's very words, I won't repeat them, but we were sitting in the hotel room waiting on the jury's verdict, and we got basically, we knocked out all 5 of their patents. They were worthless, fraudulently obtained, past the statute of limitations, forcing against a competitor. It was just unbelievable.
As what you call a short line, or a company that specializes in products like we do, and our products are pulled behind a tractor, we don't have the powered unit, we have to stay innovative. Innovation is key to our survival.
We were the first to fold a planter to make it easier to transport. Then we were the first to flex a planter where the wings could flex up and down. Started out flexing in the middle. Later on we flexed it at each wing flexed off of a center section. So we had at least 2 sections and then 3 sections. The next invention that comes to mind was the row markers, where the markers folded with 1 hydraulic cylinder. Then we come along and got rid of the transmission in the middle of the planter and put the speed change out on the ends of the planter. We then come up with the contact drive that got rid of the drive chain running around the gauge wheel. And then we rotated the planter, locked it rigid and rotated the planter for road travel. And so the next big invention, I believe, was we come up with the 15-inch rows, and we could see that we had clearance problems between the rows, so we built a frame we called the double frame, and we put the extra rows out front. We did at first with a 4-row, then a 6-row, and then we built an 8, later on a 12-row, and that we called the twin line, 16-row. So we had capitalized on all of those split row planters. We were the narrowest in transport of anybody out there, and there has to be several other things. I know we built the larger drive shafts at some point, and the contact drive wheels were very good way to go. More recently, we were the first to have electric drives, and on goes the inventing that we do with planters.
But as you look at planters, that's where the technology product is for the products that we make. We are operating the TruSpeed planter, and we're running about 9 miles an hour down here because we're in areas where we've got a little bit shorter passes, a little rougher ground, so we're getting 100% singulation there, and everything looks really good, so it's been working really well. Here the graphs are very similar. The interface of the screen looks the same with the TruSpeed meters, no different than if you had the TruRate meters. We're just running faster, and we've got TruDepth integrated in here now, which is new as well, the hydraulic downforce. So it's nice to have everything on one screen and not have a second screen like we had in our first year with TruDepth. We said, you know, we're not where we would like to be from an electronics standpoint, and there were so many things that we wanted to do but we couldn't do because we were either limited by timeline or by a supplier that didn't understand how to go about something. And so we said, let's bring that in-house, let's do it ourselves, let's hire, you know, the best team that we can hire as far as skill set, but let's be sure that those we hire, we're bringing in the ag background and those that have the skills but have the farm background and understand what they're creating. So that was back in 2014 that we established Kinze Electronics division. So, you know, today we can truly say Kinze Electronics, when we look at our advanced system, Blue Vantage and Blue Drive, our electric drive system, those are made by Kinze for Kinze planters.
The planning is the most important thing that a farmer does. So you find that not only is it important, but it's the operation that the owner himself is most apt to be doing. It's been simplified due to some of the complaints we get from a lot of guys, including myself. Make it simple so that it's easy to use. And here we got the screen showing what we're doing with the planter, but around the outside we got all the things we need to know or we need to change. When you go into those end rows, the automatic GPS shuts it off. One of the goals is to get that end set up right, because you know your neighbor's going to be looking over the fence to see what you're doing, and they don't see what you do that's good as quick as they see what you do that makes a mistake.
Meters have over the years evolved and become more efficient and more accurate. TruSpeed came as a result of farmer and dealer feedback, and that's, you know, one of our core values is customer focus. When we designed TruSpeed, and we said, okay, how can we design a meter that is very accurate at a range of speeds, because, you know, being able to go really fast is just as important as when you're going really slow. You know, if you're slowing down to turn around, you don't want that accuracy to be sacrificed in a meter. And then we want to achieve, with the components that we have, better maintenance intervals and components that will outlast the competition. So the farmer, again, when he buys a Kinze planter with TruSpeed, is buying a product that's very durable, that's going to last and be accurate at the speed that he needs to plant at, whether it's 3 miles an hour or 12 miles an hour. As we look at feedback from farmers, as we look at market opportunities and where the market is growing, one of the things that we started recognizing is that there was a growing market of what was classified as high-speed tillage. As we studied the high-speed tillage market, and specifically what we're calling hybrid horizontal tillage. We've got a tool that is not just a fall tool or a spring tool, and again, that's what was very desirable for us also being farmers, is that you've got a tool that can work both spring and fall. And then when you look at the soil finish, how it incorporates the residue and gives you that great surface finish that you can plant right into in the spring, that you can use as tillage in the fall after the crop is out. We were just really intrigued by the high-speed tillage segment, and specifically the mock till and what it could do as far as for the soil, and really preparing and having that beautiful seed bed in a variety of conditions.
Well, you have to go forward with your company, and if you don't, you stagnate and go backwards, and everybody else is coming up with innovations. We think that we can watch, we can listen to the farmer, listen to the customer, we can listen to the dealers, but we also listen to our own people. As family, we still farm enough to stay very involved, and so we're coming at this from 3 different ways so that we can get the best ideas from the best places to learn from those ideas.
It's all a great experience for us, and we enjoy using the equipment and making it better. And I think that's one thing that makes Kinze unique to most of our competitors is, as a family, we farm, and so we're using the equipment, we know how it should work, and know ways we can make things better just because of the many years we've had of operating things. And the same cannot be said, about the large corporations where many of the upper executives probably don't have any ties or experience farming. We get to the fun and sometimes challenging part is that we get to operate equipment that is in test mode, and things that we're proving out.
So my earliest memories of farming are with my dad and his brother, and so it gets to be a habit. I don't call it a habit, but it gets in your blood, and that's what you want to do, and that's what I always felt I wanted to do. I got into manufacturing simply because my dad couldn't afford to help me start farming, so my second choice was welding and repair, and that's what was the beginning of the company.
I was probably about 10 years old when I first started driving the grain cart by myself, and yeah, it's always fun to get out of the office and be with him in the field, and just to be outdoors and use the product. And harvest is probably my favorite just because of the time of year, and it's interesting as far as between the combine and the grain cart and the trucks going in and out of the field. But it's fun to be able to farm with him, and over the years I've learned a lot from him just by riding with him and having him teach me best practices.
Farmers tend to get out there and get the job done. They don't throw up their hands and not plant a crop. Farmers are probably the most optimistic person on the face of the earth, and even in the prices don't look good, the farmers will go out and plant their crop and raise their livestock and do whatever they typically do and hope for the best.
So every farmer, it's his business getting crop in and out of the ground. That's his livelihood. So, for the farmer, he's always looking at what things can make him more efficient, more productive, have greater yields. Ultimately, it's about making money and having income to support his family and income to pay for the inputs the next year around to put the next crop in the ground. There's definitely a difference, when your name is on the product and you own the company as an individual or as a family. That's very different than a corporation that, is publicly held and you have stockholders. And it's very impersonal by comparison. When you come here, we as owners like to interact and be involved with people, and we truly see it as taking a team of people to make all the things that happen here at Kinze. I mean, all the great things we do as a result of our people, not us as owners. You know, we're obviously involved and very passionate about the business, but we couldn't do what we do without the many great people that we've surrounded ourselves with.
Hey, what were your expectations when you opened up shop in Eldora?
Just to make a living. I didn't have my sights set very high at the time. I just knew that I liked to fix and repair things. And in fact, that's what kept me going, was I enjoyed the customer and satisfying the needs of that customer and building what I thought he needed, and evidently we succeeded in doing a lot of that.